Powder monkey's gonna come in.
Point out.
Point out.
What's real important is that round gets seated down here at the very end. What's important is on this end of that round he just seated would be the gunpowder. If it ain't all the way back, then this person's job to prick it and vent it, break open that bag of whatever kind of would not work if it was not far enough back. Misfire could ruin this gun and stop the gun from working. That would happen if that gunpowder wouldn't seat it far enough back.
Alright, now after we seated it, we'll step out, he'll nod me off, and we'll step out. He'll say, ready. Then you take your thumb off the bend, then he'll prick it.
Wait a minute, I'm going up here to the...
They use a primer with nothing but a brass. Just a brass friction primer will be placed in here. It'd have not gunpowder to use it as a fuse, but
chemicals, like a match head.
Yeah, like a match head chemical. I would simply put that in there and she would hold it. It would be attached to a long string, a lanyard. We'd be about this far away. When I took all the slack out of that string and I was outside of this wheel, I would nod her out. She would then get outside of that wheel, because when this gun works, see, these boys is already assuming a position. I'm looking around, I'm making sure that none of my boys are what's inside of this gun, or I'm not going to have anybody cross my path as I fire at the enemy. I didn't say, if it was gun one, I'd say gun. My commander would say gun one, prepare to fire. He would say fire. I would pull the lanyard, which would then yank on my primer, which as I yank it away, it causes a spark of the friction in there, dropping down into that powder where she just punctured in the bag, igniting all that, and the force would force the bullet or projectile out of the gun. Same way all of our revolvers and guns worked in the war between the states. Most time you see all the things you see on the cannonballs, they always show them as being round. No, these projectiles were shaped like shells and had different kinds for different reasons that they was going to use them for. Unfortunately, most of our advances in medicine and weaponry occurs during wartime. You're always figuring out new ways to kill men. Then the doctors, it's up to them to determine new ways to try to save those lives. Most of your advances on this gun and other guns happen in the Twin States. After that gun was fired, you're going to load it very quickly. And so you got hot, to keep having hot embers in there. I would then have the warm work to make sure there wasn't any hot embers. Most time, at the end of those bags would be the canvas. If there's any part of that bag left in there after it was fired, it would be his job to yank it out of there. Once he did that, then this sponge would be wet and work back and forth like that. Most of the time they would do this. If they was under a lot of pressure, they would not, which could be dangerous. But most of the time they would swab this gun and clear it, make sure it was that. Then after that, we would go through the round would be advanced again and given to this man. It would be loaded again and fired again. How many times in 1 minute? 3. So this gun could be worked 3 times in 1 minute, which is an amazing feat. But every man on this gun had to know his job. Not only did he have to know his job, he had to be educated. He had to listen to orders a whole lot better than somebody else, because this is the most dangerous thing you can do. Is try to work a gun, especially one that really are really working with live ammunition. So and everybody was always taking pot shots at these boys, because if you can either knock down their horses to keep this gun from moving, or knock down the men working it. Then you'd have to find somebody smart enough, or somebody you would have to coach to work this gun after your crew went down. So most of the time they'd knock these boys down and then knock the horses down Then they had this gun that they could use later on because you could not move this gun off the field unless you had an able team of horses and men that knew how to move this gun. Because this gun would then, this gun would be moved, have to be raised up, picked up, and hooked up to the back of this limber. This is not a caisson, it's a limber. All the ammunition, all the special tools and stuff to work this gun was in there. So this would be moved away, it wouldn't be nowhere close. It would be probably from here, at least from here to those vehicles, away from this gun, if possible. The horse would still be hitched up to it. So because they're going to be shooting at this gun, not this limb. This being that close, an explosion would kill everybody and all around. Most of the time they work the guns in batteries, so these guys would be close together, or the guns would be working in close proximity.
They're not blowing in here, but they make it.
Most of the time it was either at least a 4-horse hitch, sometimes a 6-horse hitch to move these over bad ground. We're on some good ground here, but imagine 1,000 men, imagine 10,000 men, and imagine it like Friday with the rain we got trying to move this. You know how far this would dig? This would dig down into its hub with some bad ground. So they just worked them old horses to death. And the men too. The men would be out there sweating and yanking just like everybody else. By the end of the war, they was figuring out ways around. They were just cutting trees and moving these over trees as they cut them down. They were called corduroy roads. They would just cut the trees down and move them that way instead of, and that's a precursor of our corduroy wooden and gravel roads that they come along with. Now, I'm not the man that works this gun. These boys up front are.
Thank you.
There's been times I have worked the gun, but as reenactors, I work in the cavalry division. I'm on the horse. I'm always trying to get to these boys before they fire again. But these boys know this very well. They're very safe. One of the things we try to be in the reenacting community to redo these battles is number one, we're safe. Number two, we try to have fun. Number three, we try to educate the public. That's why we're here today. Now, if you've got any questions, these two boys right here can tell you all about it. And I want to thank you. If I don't get a chance, you don't come by and see us again after a while. Thank you for coming being with us today.
Thank you.